get into it. I'm very excited to have you here today. The topic of this lecture is going to be think outside the box, creative ways to add digital value to your learning material. The lecture is going to be held in German too, a little bit later today, if you're interested in that. But right now, we're going to start in English. Okay, just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Katharina Westreicher. Katharina works just fine if you're having troubles with my last name. Yeah, I'm a consultant for strategic partnerships here at eSquirrel, and I'm going to present to you today. If you haven't downloaded app yet, just a quick reminder to do so. Maybe right now would be the best time, because I'm going to show you some practice on the app itself. Depending on how much time we have, I'm either going to show you just the author's tool or some other views, and you might join me today or join any of our other lectures. There are a lot of things to really act yourself and really get it going there. Okay. Yeah, just at the beginning, I want to make a quick little survey with you and ask you what your idea is. Please use the chat if you have for the survey, and if you have any questions, my colleague Daniela is going to look at the chat, answer your questions there, and of course there's going to be a Q&A session in the end where you can also speak to me directly. But the chat is always a very good idea to tap in if you have any questions. So for my quick little survey at the beginning, in which areas do you think eSquirrel can be used? Maybe you just can give me some keywords or 1 or 2 lines and just give me an idea of what do you think, how eSquirrel can be used, where it is used normally, just to give a quick picture. Giving you some time here. The languages I'm seeing here, yeah. Give you 1 or 2 more minutes if you have some ideas, some input. Do you think how it's used? Okay. Yeah, so languages is a good idea. So a lot of people think that, that's what I know from practice with our partners. A lot of people think like the first idea that comes to mind is eSquirrel is only used in the context of schools, like for classical teaching in the school context. And for example, the English teaching languages, of course, we use it there. And while this is true, while we are very strong in the school area, while we have a lot of material there and it's working really well, that's not the only area where you can use eSquirrel. We really don't put these barriers on our partners, but there are a lot of creative ways to use that tool. And I will show you during the presentation and give you just some input, some inspiration and some ideas how you can use it and what other ways are there if you don't have the classical textbook, if you don't want to use it in school context and so on. So for the beginning, very classically giving you a structure of this lecture. I have divided this lecture in 5 little parts. And the first 3 of them are kind of calls for help from our partners when they have good material but don't quite know how to do. Number 1 is help nobody uses my PDFs, so my ebooks, for example. Number 2 will be help my target audience are in school kids. This is the biggest part because it also covers a lot of the other parts. And 3 will be help my learning materials aren't typical textbooks. And then we move on to Part number 4, how can you digitize your material effectively? So what can you do with that? How can you still make it work? And number 5, as I already said, we're going to look into the practice. I am going to show you our authors tool a little bit and what you can, how you can use it, what you can do there, and how it works. Okay, let's start with part number 1. Help, nobody uses my PDFs. So you might already have a good PDF, a good online material, a good ebook, but nobody is quite using that. You feel like it's not really appreciated the way it should be. So what are the challenges for digital education right now? What do you have to face if you put out online material there? So the thing is, even if you have very good online material, you still have to motivate people to use it. It works as for all classical books as well, as for reading as well. I know that from the school context, you really have to motivate people to read. You have to motivate people to learn. It's just you have to take their hand a little bit and get them going, because starting with something is a lot of times the hardest part, and you just have to get them into it and really see your material for what it's worth and give them some motivation to use it. That also is the case for digital material as well, of course. Second point I have pointed out here is considering your learning type. It can be even more tricky to learn from PDFs. So if you have some people that really need to feel more to learn, like they love the analog books because of the feel of the book, of the smell of the pages and so on. They can use their text markers to really do something with that. So if you're that kind of learning type, it can be really hard to get motivated for online material. And that's also a thing you should consider. That needs even more motivation. That's just a part where you really have to be really clever and creative to interest those people in learning and to make learning as easy as possible for them. Also, you know, right now, especially during the pandemic, you're not the only person who wants to get digital, who wants to use online material. So most people are sitting in front of some screens right now the whole day, and it can be really draining, really exhausting. On the one hand, physically for the eyes, at least my optician says that, but also really exhausting emotionally if you look at the screen the whole day. So that's another part where that motivation is really key to make your material stand out, to make it something a little bit different, to make it more engaging. So people really say, yeah, okay, that's how I love to learn. And a third point is in online education, you can have even less feedback if it's not done right very often. So as we've seen in online education right now, there is not as much feedback than there would be in a face-to-face context of learning. So maybe people have turned their screens off, like right now, it's very, very common nowadays, or their speakers off. So you don't have that kind of physical feedback from your students, from people learn with your material, what they got, what they did understand, or what they didn't. They also might have other things happening on their computer right now. They are maybe not that concentrated as they would be in a classical school setting, in a classical learning environment. Maybe you're not alone at home. Maybe their partners are there and also have to work from home. Maybe they have kids there who really need their time and their appreciation. So there are a lot of things going on right now, and the learning environment oftentimes isn't the best one. So that's just another thing you have to consider. The feedback is really a little bit different than it would be in a classical learning environment. There are a lot of challenges for digital education right now too, and a lot of struggles. And we will think about how to overcome those. I want to show you how we approach those things at eSquirrel. So how are we looking at those challenges? What are we doing um, to make it easier for students and lecturers? So those are the two parts. Lecturers, on the one hand, with eSchool, they get help with with individualization of their classes. So they really they see more what's going on with their different kind of students. They get some feedback. They really see with our learning analytics what has been understood now, what's maybe still very tricky, and what they have to repeat again in class or their training context, wherever you use it. And they really get some more feedback. They get better statistics that they wouldn't have with just looking at their screens. They also, and that's a key point, they also save a lot of time with preparation and post-processing. So with preparation, they already have something prepared they can use in just some clicks and get going. I think you use their precious time for other things, the need in the education context. And also post-processing. As you know, the answers, they don't have to correct like by hand every little sheet they normally would, what has been written down. For example, for vocabulary, because we talked about languages before, or for maths exercises, or whatever, however you use those tools, the post-processing part is really also made way quicker. So they get some help there. And as I have already pointed out, they understand the trainees better with our learning analytics. So there are a lot of statistics they wouldn't have. They wouldn't even have in a face-to-face context, because if you have a class that consists, I would say, there are more of 5 people, it starts to get tricky to look at everyone individually. And they get just some ideas of what are people still struggling with, what they still might need help with. What's going on the student side? So students will be motivated to learn from through gamification, and that's a really important aspect. I will point it out in a little more detail a little later on. So really, the motivation part we talked about earlier, that's a really key point, to really enjoy learning, to really get into learning and learn more often than you would normally in that context. They also can participate equally. So that's a part I feel like that's often overlooked, because we still have some troubles, like people don't mean it in a mean way very often, but there just are some prejudices: who is capable of answering what, who is capable of doing what. And then with that kind of tool, they can participate equally and show what they really can do, and not only what you expect them to do. If I don't know, Jacob is better at math than Susie, but they all have the same questions, and they can all answer them equally and participate equally. I feel like that's a really good and important point. And third point here is they get feedback they really understand right away. They don't get just a red wiggly line under text, for example, but they really see what I'm already doing very good, what I having, where I'm still having troubles, where do I still need help, and what is the right answer to that. They get the feedback right away when they need it, so they can learn really in a long-term environment or way. Hearing thing for the microphone from one of our participants. I'm not sure if it's a question. If you have a question, please write it in the chat right now, or there will be a question and answer session at the end of the lecture. Okay, next slide. I put out some more specific points so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. So what can eSquirrel do for trainer specific? So you can print out worksheets very quickly. You can create quizzes, the learning analytics I've already talked about, and the automatic homework evaluation. And on the right corner down there, There's another very important tool, in my opinion, the raising your hand digitally. That works for both sides, for students and for trainers, of course. So if one of your students hasn't understood something and doesn't really get what is talked about, and they really have another question, they can ask in the app right away and ask their trainer in person, hey, I have a question with this and that, can you answer that for me? And that's really important because they, we have people who might be too shy to ask right in front of all of their colleagues, for example. And if they get some time, if they have some time at home to think over some things and they still don't quite get it, they can use that kind of tool, and you really get more information. You really help people who might be on the introvert side, or when some question just comes up later and not right away, they can use that tool, and that's really helpful. Okay, what can it do for trainees or for students? As I said, with the gamification aspect, you really get those long-term achievements. You repeat the questions in spaced repetitions. So you don't just learn it one time for a test and then forget everything right away, but you're motivated to learn in little easy bits every time. So you really get that in your long-term memory. Also have the self-paced learning, so you can take your own time and you can learn in an environment where you want to learn it where needed. The offline aspect, that's very crucial, especially for school context. At least students told us so. They really don't want to use the data to match for learning apps. So of course it already works offline too. You also can connect the ebook. So if you have another question, you can look it up at the right page right away and get it answered when you need it, and don't say, yeah, like I will look it up 2 days later, and then by then you've already forgotten it. Let's be realistic. You can duel with colleagues. That's part of the gamification aspect. It's really a nice way to collecting those little points and seeing who is on top. Of course, we don't want to shame anyone though who might be not as far beyond as other people. So you only see the top third of people in your class who are competing, and you can match with them a little bit. Okay, that was the first part for PDFs. Now we're going to get to help. My target audience aren't school kids. Okay, let's look at target audience in general. So age group is a pretty nice indicator for how to present your content. That's that's just a really nice way to get first kind of average idea of, okay, of course you have to present your content differently if it's for really little kids or if it's for your coworkers, for example. That has to be considered. And also the context and the specifics of your learning environment. So they have to be thought of. Maybe you have a certain kind of audience that has some barriers, for example. You have to consider that, and you have to think about that, of course. If you want to present your content really, really perfectly. But I can tell you, even if you have a target audiences of the same age, groups are just not homogeneous. There will always be differences. There will always be different things people bring in from their background. They have different cultures, class, gender, religions, languages, and so on. So there's a lot of different aspects. And you just have a lot of individuals sitting there in your classroom or in your learning environment. And that's the tricky point. That's the thing where we have to try to keep our balance in education context. So on the one hand, you want to include everyone, make it easy to have everyone included. On the other hand, you want to look at the individuals and give them the individual assistance they need. So that's the kind of balance we need to keep here. And that's not very easy, but we try to help teachers and lecturers there as much as we can. So let's look at some different target audience that might be yours and some ideas of how to approach them. Maybe you have a target audience outside the school context. I'm thinking of working environments, for example, here. So there's one quote I want to present to you from Johan Huizinga, from his book Homo Ludens. He is very important in the research of playing games. And a quote he said, I tried to translate it here for you in English, so I hope it works in English as well, is a fundamental element of our culture is play. Humans are players. Without a desire and ability to play, parts of our culture would not have been developed. And I think that's a key point we try to overlook some kind of education, especially if it's education for adults. It always has to be very, very strict and to be taken seriously. And that's just, that's not quite how learning works, and that's not quite how people work. Playing is a really important key factor, and it's a really big thing where we can get that motivation aspect in. And what we know from the pedagogical side and pedagogical context, it doesn't just stop if you reach a certain age. It's not like the desire to play stops. I can reassure you, even CEOs like to play. And to give you a bit of background there, it's a German article that just came out. Translated the title here. It says, it just came out at the beginning of May. It says $300 billion. Gaming industry is worth more than music and film industry combined. Just to give you an idea from the economical side point, from the economical point of view, the gaming industry is really, really growing bigger and bigger, and it's not just kids who are investing their money there. Can you assure of that too? So we know that adults love to play too. How we should use that in the learning environment too, and get that motivation in. So if your target audience is outside of the school context, like in the working context, for example, as I already pointed out, even adults want to learn with fun, of course, so that gamification aspect also works for adults as well. But if you say, okay, I from my kind of view, I have an organization that really has to be very, very seriously. I don't want, I can't collect just some acorns there. That wouldn't work at all with our environment. Of course, there are ways to change it too. If you know, there are ways at eSquirrel where you can change your icons, your colors, and your designs. If you really want to do, if you say no, it has to be more toned down. I want everything in, I don't know, gray colors or stuff like that. That's customizable. We can work with that. So no worries there. If you really say, I have to change that up, then just ask us and we will find a way to change it up. For learning, also for adults, regular repetitions are essential to get them into long-term memory. You don't want to just have some kind of course for a day, or your coworkers telling you like for an hour about safety regulations, for example, and then you forget it again. You want to really get this important information in your long-term memory to work with that. So the regular repetitions are also essential in that context to learn. Using your knowledge directly also helps to learn long-term. You don't just get a handout, look over it, never use it again, but really answering the questions right away and using your knowledge right away. It's just, we know that that's way easier than just reading over some kind of PDF or ebook to really learn something down. And to just give you an example, of course, eSquirrel already has courses for adults. Like I've put in here's two pictures. There's an internet course we have, for example, for the elderly. If you want to get started with the internet, where you can just learn that, get that kind of media competence and get into that. Or another thing, another course that I think is really interesting, and just to see that it also works in not only the school context, is a book on inner medicine that we are releasing very soon. So it's also even you want your doctor also to know what he is doing long term and not to just learn for one test at university. I can assure you that. So it works for adults as well. No worries there. Let's look at another target audience. What if your target audience has some kind of barrier? So we know that inclusion has to be really a part of all aspects of our life, and learning context, educational contexts are a part there as well. So just so you know, eSquirrel also supports accessibility features, of course, on your smartphone, like reading features. If you have troubles with seeing, you can put on the reading features and the questions can be read to you. If you need some bigger fonts, and just use those options on your smartphone, and that's supported by eSquirrel as well, of course. Another kind of way to use it is I would advise to use the explanation videos. So, for example, if just writing things down is not perfectly for a course, you can put in an explanation video in sign language, or if you want to learn sign language, for example, that's a way to use it. Just get creative there and use the different tools you have to really include anybody and to really get them into the boat. Also, students have the time to solve quests at their own pace. Maybe you have a lot of people that are a little bit slower, then they have the time to use it when they want to. There's no like countdown or something, and they really can learn their own pace they need. For this kind of topic for target audience with a barrier, I really would love to, if you have some other ideas, please just send feedback to me or to our team. And maybe you have some ideas how to include other people I haven't thought of right now, and get them to use tools like that too. I would love that, and our team is really loving feedback on things like that and trying to include as much people as we can. So don't be shy to send us feedbacks, to send us your idea to get creative with us, or if you have some more wishes, just contact us. Okay, another target audience. Maybe you're saying your target audience is very, very small and you don't quite know how to approach that. So on the one hand, of course, if you use eSquirrel, you will get more outreach over time with eSquirrel. So maybe it's small right now, that can be the case, and you say, I actually want to reach out to more people. And then I would just compare costs, for example. So a lot of people still think, like digital ways of approaching digital ways aren't worth as much as analog ways, because with an analog kind of approach, they really have something on their hands. But if you just compare costs, for example, printing flyers and how many people you can reach there, maybe in a day by handing them out, paying the person who's handing them out, of course. If you just compare costs of the visibility of those analog techniques and our digital ways, most of the time, like when we looked at it, basically every time, it's just there is most of the time comes up that the analog ways aren't really better, they even have less outreach. So maybe that's the perfect point to start to make your audience a little bit broader by getting that extra outreach. But if you still say, okay, it's me and my 5 colleagues and we want to try that out, we think it's cool, but we don't want to put in an official course, that's no problem at all either. eSquirrel free and just the normal accounts you can use. You can use it for a purpose. You can use it for you and your coworkers, for example, to share learning material and to make up your own little quizzes and to share them. They won't be in the official store, of course, but you can use eSquirrel for free and try it out in your little kind of group if you want to give it that approach. A lot of teachers use it, for example, like that. We know that they make up their own little quizzes with their own content they have right now in their classes and share that with their students. So that's not a problem. I will show you our Office tool a little bit later. And you can see for yourself, it works very intuitively, very easily. You can just get going with that. Okay, another example of different target audience. is what if your target audience is very young or very old? So you can use eSquirrel courses starting at a very young age, actually, starting in primary school. As we know, kids just copy their environments. They see everyone around them using their smartphones, see their parents using them, see their elder brothers maybe, and they want to try that too. And we know that it starts with a younger and younger age, that people are starting with that new kind of media, new kind of technology, and keeping them away from that only works for a certain amount of time normally. I think the better approach for that would be to train some media competence with them, to show them how to use it cleverly, to show them how to use it safely, to show them how to approach this kind of media. So you can already use it with primary school, with little quizzes. For example, for first-time readers or for learning colors and naming them, that's no problem. You can use them at a young age and give them some quizzes and really learn something instead of just, I don't know, playing some kind of game with microtransactions. Okay, and it's also suitable for the elderly, of course. Think of classical crossword puzzles. Like this kind of activation is really important. You want to still keep your brain working, even at a certain kind of age. You want to get feedback for how good you're doing with some quizzes and all that. And as I showed you, we have the internet course, for example. So it's also suitable for the elderly. As I put out before, there's a lot of ways to use that. So that shouldn't be a challenge if your target audience is very young or very old to use that. And it can just be the first steps to learn with the smartphone, as pointed out, and train media competence. If you never used that kind of media before or technology before, it can be the perfect way to introduce someone to that. So that was the part about target audiences. That was the biggest part to be covered. Let's take a quick look at the next chapter. Help my learning materials aren't typical textbooks. So you might say, okay, that's nice and all. I have my target audience now and so on, but I don't have classical textbooks that I can use as you would use in school. What should I do with that? And I can reassure you again that all your materials work analog will work digitally as well if done right. If you want to get some information to someone else and really get them in long-term memory, don't be scared. It works digitally as well if you're doing it right. And I have listed some examples here, and we will look at it in the office too a little later on to get you some ideas, some inspiration about that, how to use that. For example, if you just have video material, we use that already. You can ask questions about videos as well, of course, to really look at them with more concentration and to answer questions about it. Maybe you have some hobby books. Maybe you want someone to learn a certain kind of hobby. You also want to process information there. Maybe people really want to get going with their hobby now and not just talk about it for 500 years. And to get them into that, you want to accompany that with that kind of quiz book to really get them going there. Books for first-time readers. I've already mentioned that with the target audience. So maybe you want to ask something about the text that was written there. So first-time readers really get into reading, get motivated to read more. Reading on a smartphone is also reading, by the way. We tend to overlook that. So to just get more into thinking about the text you read, what do they mean, what do they do with you, and first-time readers can work there as well. Professional journals, for example, experiment setups. You can also ask questions about novels, about the text you read there. Maybe you want to learn something in a biography about a certain kind of person. And also another big branch of eSquirrel is the onboarding in companies and further educations. As I put in a little picture there. So you can use it in a working environment as well to get your new trainees, to get your new colleagues, really give them everything they need right away to get them into the feeling of the company and answer, give them a place where all their questions are answered and where they can learn everything at their pace. So now, how can you digitize your material effectively? I show you some pictures and some ideas to also give you the visual look of how we do it here at the eSquirrel. We have 8 different types of questions that enable sustainable skill acquisition. So of course you will need other kind of questions. If you have some kind of mathematical content, you will need some formulae there. Or if you want to ask, just have a fun quiz about your hobby book or your paper or journal that you have. So there are different types of questions, and we know that the type of question does a lot of how the content, the learning content is approached and how people think about it. So you have a lot of variety there. For example, you can put in some videos, you can put in audios that works with the languages we talked about in the beginning, but you can use that way more creatively than people think about right now. And the algebra, the formulae, as I already told you, that's also a part you can put in there. You can use it on any device. That's important too, to get everybody on board. You have that mobile learning aspect. Maybe you want to learn for your hobby book at the bus stop, for example. You can also learn offline, so no worries about your data. And yeah, just on all devices. Well, like if the little brother is already using your computer, maybe you can use a tablet or something like that. So everybody gets involved there. Important for the blended learning aspect is also to give it the same structure as your material already has. So students really find their way around quickly, and to just not just make it some kind of extra you also have, like, okay, there's another little feature I have this kind of learning material. No, it's way nicer if it all comes in a package, if it's really that blended kind of way to integrate your material with this digital context, to really enhance your material in the digital way, and not just say, you have another little thing there, but to really mix them up together. That's the way to get going, to give it one look and to really help people to find their way around. If you already have some ebooks or PDFs, for example, or if you have some other kind of interfaces or ports, eSquirrel can be connected to a lot of different applications there too. If you have something very special going on, please ask me and I will ask our IT guy, because I don't know all of those ways how they can be connected, but there are a lot of ways. I know that if you already have some content and you want to connect it, and students always have the ebook with them and can look things up. Okay, and last but not least, after all this inspiration, if you still say, okay, but I have something that's really on top of my head, that's really something different, that's really something bigger, that's really needs another approach, don't worry, eSquirrel also has some time for EdTech projects, for example. We are doing something right now for a partner, like we don't want to put barriers on the ideas. It's the other way around. We are excited about creative ideas. So if you have an idea and you think, I have good material, I think that could work in this or that way, just contact us, text me, text my colleagues, or call us if you want to. If you have some ideas, I'm sure we will find a way to make them work digitally. No worries there. So think outside the box with us. A quick last look to give you a better idea of our team before I show you the authors tool in the end. Our team at eSquirrel, we have so many great people here, and so you really don't. If you have some kind of question, I'm sure there's a person for you there that can answer that. I'm sure that we can make it work together. We have great editorial staff that really working on high quality content and also produce content for you. We have a pedagogical advisory board, so we brought teachers on board. We really brought people on board who have that kind of background. We have a great IT team and great support there. So as I already said, if you have any questions concerning IT, we can look at that. And of course, our cool authors. We have more than 90 authors with years of teaching experience. So we really have a great team here, I would say. And if you have some ideas and want to get creative with us, please feel free to just give me feedback, to talk to us, and we will work something out. So let's digitally enhance your books together. Before we go in a little Q&A session, I want to show you, as I already said, a quick idea about our authors tool. So look in. Let's stop this presentation. I will just open it here. So if you log into the eSquirrel portal, normally starts there at the teacher's portal. That's a classical kind of view where you can create new classes with our official courses, with the books we already have. You could also take quizzes yourself in the student view. That's how it starts. But here on the top left, see the authors tool as well. You can create your own little courses there. That's how it works. How it would also work if you are a publishing house, for example. Let's just try it out yourself to get an idea of what you can do with the tool. There are really lots of ways, and in our Digital Education Week, we will show you some different ideas how you can use them too. I have just started a little course there called Creative Questions. Of course, you could choose a picture, a nice picture you want there. You can, if you clicked on the advanced tool, I needed some time to see that, but you can also invite other authors, so you don't have to be alone in writing there. So you can change the font size, for example, or put in your book URL and stuff like that. So you can do that kind of creation with other people as well. And then there's a table of contents of a little course here. You could easily introduce another chapter. Let's think if you have some video material, for example, that you want to have questions to. You can also, of course, choose the color. I think I have blue right now here, so let's put in some blue, for example. And to each of these chapters, you can add a lot of different quests. And in those quests, you can add up to 10 questions. So maybe you have a hobby book, for example. I would think about if you have some book about animals, for example, and you want kids to just learn some interesting facts about animals, or not kids, maybe someone who is deep into bird watching and wants to learn more about birds. The sounds are important there too. So I would advise you there, you can include some sound features and ask, for example, which bird makes that sound. And then you could put in an image, you can put in some question audio there, and just get some kind of audio and then ask a clever question to it. And then I've chosen the multiple choice feature here, and then you can just put in some different kind of birds and let people ask about that. You can also choose the difficulty of the questions. There, it looks very clean and simple, but it offers you a lot of features. You can put in an explanation video here, so there are a lot of options. You see there are different question formats that you can use, and you can see an example here and the description there if you're not quite sure how to use it perfectly. Put in some questions here. Maybe you have another hobby book. Maybe you have something about knitting, for example, or I don't know. I'm not big into knitting, but maybe you have something about woodworking, or just get people into their hobby and you want to include a quiz as well so they can train at the bus stop um, about their about their hobbies they really want to get into now. So you can answer some questions there. So for different kind of patterns, which kind of stitches you need in the knitting department here, that could be an idea to get your hobby book working there. Professional journals, you can ask questions about interpreting statistics. So my colleague will hold a lecture tomorrow about how to use formula for your math questions. So that could be an option. Maybe you have some first-time readers, as I said, want to ask them about a text about squirrel Susie, and you can make it very simple, just with a simple thumbs up or thumbs down, and ask them things like squirrel Susie's hat is green, and if that's true or false, through the picture, maybe about squirrel Susie, then meet her up, and just ask first-time readers, get them into reading, give them some pictures, teach them about colors and all that. That could be a way to work around that. Okay, and of course, in the department of working environment, as I already said, we have made some questions for bakeries. I can show you the German way here because I didn't translate it now. I didn't translate it yet, but I will show you the German version and just give you a quick idea of how it can look. If you want to talk to customers, you can also give some questions that here. You can include sound of a customer reaction and then ask people how they would react appropriately. Maybe what they can do in that kind of situation. You know, there's a lot of different ways to use that kind of. So I hope I've given you a quick idea about our author tool. Try it yourself. It's really intuitive and you can do a lot of things there, and then you can get a better idea of how you can use it. If you have further questions about it, just ask me or anybody else of our team. If after the course you're still a little bit need more help with our office tool, if you just go to our website, there's also a step-by-step instruction how to use the authors tool. Because if you're new to that, I know you have to look up things at the beginning first a little bit. You just go to the teachers part and there create your own courses, and then you have step-by-step explanation with pictures and all, how to use it, how to get going, what you can do there. Make the pictures bigger to really see what's going on here. And also here at the end, you can download our guideline. If you're not quite sure how to frame questions, you can download the guideline here, and that just gives you an idea, like some input from the pedagogical background of how good courses should be, how good questions should be asked to really get people into that, to get them activated. So like how you should avoid negative questions, for example, because they confuse people and stuff like that. You know, like if you need more input to really make the course you're dreaming of, use the tools and the instructions we already have. Okay. Yeah, my theory part and my practical part is reaching an end here. We still have some more minutes for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can also start your audio now or just write in the chat. If you want to see something more, I can open some other windows here and try to show you more about the authors tool, for example. If you have questions right now, feel free to put them in the chat now, and I will try to answer as many as possible. I will give you some more minutes. I don't see. Someone is typing. Okay, let's give you some more time. Don't be shy. Now is the perfect time. We can still show you the tool to give you all the advice you need to get going in your creative ideas. Okay, I think there doesn't look like there are some questions here right now. So there would also be the teacher's tool. You can use that one if you want to create new classes. It's really easy and you can try it. All the courses we have for free period, and it doesn't cost you anything to just look into them, how other people may have done it. Like we have a course from the Austrian Youth Red Cross, for example. We have this internet guide, as I told you. We have many school books already, so maybe you get some inspiration there too, how to use their videos. We have some fun quizzes too, so yeah, just take a look at some of those and get inspired, get creative. And if you have more ideas, please reach out in any way, shape or form. Thank you a lot for this lecture, for being here, for attending today. I hope you get some inspiration here. Thanks for participating. And yeah, as my sweet colleague also posted in the chat right now, the next event will be our coffee talk. It starts at 15 o'clock Central European time. So it will be a coffee talk, so just a relaxed talk. The immense advantage of good apps compared to web-only offers. Also look at the rest of our program. Maybe you need some inspiration, as I said, for formula, for math books, for English books. If you're watching this from home a little bit later after education week, there will also be videos of the other lectures there, and you can look them up and just look at our website to get some inspiration. Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for your help. I hope you had a fun time too. You can also meet me in the Hangout launch now. I will be there for a little time if you have some more questions you're too shy to ask right now in front of everybody. And yeah, hope to see you there. See you at one of our other virtual events, and wishing you a nice day. Okay, bye.